This quick presentation is going to give you some guidelines for creating a professional PowerPoint. All right. Sometimes we look at teachers' PowerPoints and we're like, well, they don't follow the rules. But you have to remember, teachers are using PowerPoints for a different reason. Teachers are using PowerPoint as an instructional tool. For instance, you may come into my study hall in the morning and I have a PowerPoint up there with all of the steps that you need to do in order to keep up with all your classes or something. So the purpose of that PowerPoint is not to do a presentation over something I've researched, but to give you guidelines. So teachers don't follow these steps, but as a presenter, when you create a project for your teachers, you need to make sure that your PowerPoints are professional. To begin with, when you're looking at the background, we're going to talk about background for a minute. When you're looking at the background, you don't want anything that just jumps out and distracts the audience. As you can see from this background, just looking at this hurts your eyes. It's very confusing and it's distracting from what you're trying to say. As a rule, boring is best. Keep it simple. Some of the templates that they put on PowerPoint are not the best templates. So look at the template, analyze it carefully. It needs to be very simple and it needs to be easy for your audience to read what you want them to read or to see the pictures that you want them to see. You don't want the background to clash with your pictures, and you don't want it to clash with what you're writing on the PowerPoint. Here's an example of a very bad combination for your background. The bright, vibrant neon green is obnoxious, and the writing, although in this video you may be able to see it okay, when you present this on the screen, the words literally blend into the background. So you don't want to use a background that's going to overwhelm your font, like I said before. You also don't want something that makes it difficult for the audience to read. All right, now we're going to talk about font. Use a professional font. Times New Roman is a great font to use. Arial is a great font to use. Many teachers don't like you to use Comic Sans. I personally don't mind if you use Comic Sans. However, you want to ask your teachers before you create your PowerPoint whether they accept Comic Sans or not. So overall, make sure that your font is very readable. Do not, I repeat, do not use script or new Old English or something. When you put words like that on the screen, it makes your presentation very difficult to read. And the idea behind having the words on the screen is so that the audience can keep up with you as you're doing your presentation. The words also are there to give you just reminders, but they're not there for you to sit there reading from it. So the other thing that you need to think about when you're doing your PowerPoint is the color of your font. You want to keep it something that's very easy to read. You don't want to use bright colors. You don't ever want to do your whole thing in red. Oh, that's very harsh and obnoxious. Now, if you wanted to emphasize one word in there is very important, you might choose to use red for that one. That's okay. But keep most of your PowerPoint with a very solid color that's not conflicting with your background. All right, the font needs to be the consistent size and color throughout the entire presentation. Don't change it for every different slide. That is distracting. And this is a very, very important point. Your font size needs to be 28 to 32. I personally would lean toward the larger size if it fits and looks good on your screen. But sometimes you need to go to the smaller size, 28. But that's as small as it can be. Again, your font size needs to be 28 to 32 point font. All right? Now, as you can look at this slide, you can see that the next thing that I'm going to talk about is pictures. When you have flashy pictures like this, it takes away from your message and it's quite annoying. So the rule for a picture is use 1 to 2 pictures per slide. And I do want a picture on every single slide except for your title slide. You can have one if you want one, but you don't need one on your title slide. And of course, you would not put pictures on your bibliography slide. In fact, your bibliography slide doesn't have to follow any of these rules. I personally don't like bibliography slides. I would much rather you print out your bibliography and hand that to me separately, but a lot of teachers want your bibliography at the end because that shows that you are documenting where you're getting your pictures from and you're not plagiarizing. So again, each slide needs to have 1 to 2 pictures. They need to be placed on the slide so that your slide looks well balanced, and they need to be very clear. Again, when we're the next slide that we're talking about is colors. Again, think carefully when you pick your colors. Don't use distracting colors in your font. Don't use distracting colors in your theme. Don't use distracting colors in your background. And also, look at your images. Make sure that they are good, clear images and they help your presentation instead of detracting from your presentation. And again, simple is better. Don't do this. Don't do this. It is so annoying. Oh my goodness, this is becomes very annoying. Don't do it. I am not kidding. All of those crazy transitions are distracting and they take a lot of time. And when we have a class of between 20 and 30 students, we don't have time to wait for these transitions. We want to hear your message. We don't want to see transitions. Again, what is the purpose of the PowerPoint? The PowerPoint is to be a visual behind you as you are presenting this information. It's not about being cute or fancy or showing off what you can do with PowerPoint. It's just a tool to help your presentation. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is animations. All right, they're annoying. Look, it takes too much time. It's not professional. People get bored when you're doing this. It's distracting. Oh my goodness. Do not use transitions or animations. They take away from your presentation and they delay what you're doing, and it makes me angry, so don't do it. All right, now we're going to look at this slide and you're going to probably be able to tell what I'm talking about. When you look at this, the words are way too small, and if you're looking at this on your little monitor and everything, you might be able to read it just fine. But when you project this in the classroom, that font is too small. There's too many words. What's going to happen is somebody in the audience is going to be reading that the whole time you're talking. They're not going to hear a word you say, or worse yet, you're going to turn around and you're going to read every single word on this slide to us, and the audience is going to get bored and they're going to say, dude, we know how to read. Would you just put up your pictures and let us see pictures? This is talking about Chilean exports. You could have a couple pictures of exports and then you could tell us this information. So what is the rule for words on a screen? We have a 6x6 rule. Every slide except for citation slides and maybe the title slide can have no more than 6 bullets on a slide, no more than 6 words per bullet. This is a hard thing for students to do. It's very hard to condense what you're saying into 6 words. But it is actually perfectly acceptable to have bullet points that only have 1 word. For instance, you're talking about different animals that helped in the war, because we're doing historical fiction on this PowerPoint. You might have a slide with a picture of a pigeon carrying a message, and your bullets might be pigeon, cat, dog. And then you would talk about how each one of those was used in the war or the war effort. Or, I know even dolphins have been used to help in the war effort. So you might have pigeons, dogs, dolphins, and then it's your responsibility to convey the information, not the slide itself. Now, if you want to have a lot more information on that slide, you can type your information down in the notes section. And basically what the notes section is something to help you remember what you want to say on that slide. I use this all the time because I use the same presentation year after year, and I don't remember what I say every time. So when I'm creating my slides, I put my notes down at the bottom. So next year when I use this presentation again, I can go and go, oh yeah, that's right, that's what I said. So use that note section, but your viewer isn't going to see the notes down there. That's just for you. Now, when you're creating your PowerPoint, make sure that your grammar and your spelling is correct. It's very distracting when people are looking at your PowerPoint and they're like, oh, she spelled that word wrong. And I know I do it all the time. And I always appreciate when somebody quietly points out, Ms. Timlin, you spelled that word wrong. So I understand that it happens, but it is your responsibility when you're doing a professional PowerPoint to read over it and check it for spelling and check it for grammar, because it's very annoying when it's done incorrectly. Now we're going to talk about our presentation skills. You have created your PowerPoint, you have taken your notes down there, then it's your responsibility to become very familiar with what you want to say on each one of your slides. The bullet points that you have put up there can help as a reminder, but one thing that we do not want you to do is stand there staring at screen the entire time. It is your responsibility to know your information well enough that you can look at the audience and tell them what you have learned. Tell them, in this instance, what your book was about. Tell them what you learned from your article. Tell them what you learned from Gail. So in this presentation, those are the things that you need to know very clearly. So when you make your presentation, you need to study it. You need to go over it. So when we come in on presentation day, you know what you're saying.